History, as we know, it is a story filled with gaps and unanswered questions. We are about to journey through 25 ancient ruins that prove humanity once reached impossible technological heights. By the end, you will see our entire timeline of civilization in a completely new light. How did cultures across the globe build with a precision that rivals our modern machines? And why does mainstream science have so much trouble explaining these achievements? What does our forgotten past reveal about our true potential? The official timeline of human history is a comforting story of steady progress. Yet this linear path from simple hunter-gatherers to complex societies begins to fray at the edges when we look closer. Cultures across the globe, separated by vast oceans and millennia, share a strikingly similar story. They speak of a great deluge, a world-ending flood that cleansed the earth. We find this narrative in the ancient epic of Gilgamesh, in the Hindu texts describing Manu, and in over 200 distinct cultural traditions. Such a universal memory points to a shared experience, a real event so catastrophic it was seared into the collective consciousness of humanity. What could have caused such a global upheaval? Geological clues are now emerging that align with these ancient warnings. Evidence suggests that around 12,800 years ago, our planet endured a violent encounter from space. A cosmic impact, potentially from comet fragments, is theorized to have triggered a sudden climate reversal known as the Younger Dryas. This event would have plunged the world into a deep freeze, causing immense floods and rendering entire regions uninhabitable. It is a scenario that perfectly fits the description of a global reset, one that could have erased a sophisticated civilization from the face of the earth. This is not just myth, it is a scientific hypothesis that provides a crucial backdrop for the impossible structures we are about to explore. These are not the random works of primitive people, but perhaps the scattered legacy of a forgotten epoch, a world before our own. Nestled on a windswept hill in southeastern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe stands as a monumental question mark etched in stone. This complex of massive, T-shaped pillars arranged in great stone circles actively defies everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization. It was constructed around 12,000 years ago, a staggering 6,000 years before Stonehenge, and a full 7 millennia before the Great Pyramids of Egypt rose from the desert. The scale is almost incomprehensible, with finely carved limestone pillars weighing over 20 tons each, hauled and erected by a people history remembers as simple hunter-gatherers. How could a society without metal tools, without the wheel, without even permanent agriculture, achieve such a feat of engineering and artistry? The pillars themselves are not crude blocks, they are masterpieces covered in intricate, deeply carved reliefs of foxes, scorpions, vultures, and abstract symbols whose meanings are lost to us. This was clearly a place of profound importance, a sanctuary that drew people from across the region. Then, around 10,000 years ago, its creators did something just as mysterious as building it. They deliberately and carefully buried the entire complex under tons of earth. This was not an act of destruction, but one of preservation, as if they were sealing a library of stone for a future age they knew would come. Göbekli Tepe forces a difficult question. What if complex society, with its architects and artisans, its shared beliefs and coordinated labor, did not emerge from the slow grind of farming, but was instead the catalyst for it? This sanctuary of stone does not fit our timeline. It breaks it, pointing to a forgotten chapter of human achievement that leads us across the ocean to another American mystery. Across the globe, another monument shatters our understanding of ancient capability. In the stark, high-altitude plains of Bolivia, the ruins of Puma Punku sprawl like a giant's discarded toolkit. The scale is bewildering, but it is the microscopic detail that truly confounds. The andesite and red sandstone blocks are not merely carved, they are manufactured. Their edges are razor-sharp, their surfaces flawlessly flat, and they are punctuated by intricate geometric channels and perfectly cylindrical holes that look as if they were drilled by a modern machine. Some of these so-called H-blocks weigh over 100 tons, and they were quarried from a mountainside over 10 kilometers away. How did a culture without the wheel, without draft animals, accomplish this feat of transport and logistics? The precision is so absolute, so inhumanly consistent across thousands of pieces, that it has forced a radical question. Could the builders have possessed tools far beyond simple stone hammers and copper chisels? The stone itself, a brutally hard andesite, would be difficult to work with even today's power tools. Researchers have noted that achieving such flawless surfaces and perfect right angles might have required diamond-tipped instruments or a method for temporarily softening the stone, a technology now lost to time. Puma Punku stands as a monument not to gradual progress, but to a sudden, inexplicable peak of engineering. This theme of impossible precision does not stand alone. It finds a powerful echo thousands of miles away in the deserts of Egypt. The Great Pyramid of Giza is a machine of stone built with a precision that defies simple explanation. Its base is a near-perfect square, level to within less than an inch across an area larger than 10 football fields. The four sides are aligned to the cardinal directions north, south, east, and west with an accuracy of just 3/60ths of a single degree. This is not the rough work of a fledgling culture, but the signature of a master engineer. The original casing stones, now mostly gone, were so perfectly fitted that the gaps between them were thinner than a razor blade. How could a society using copper tools and rope achieve such a flawless, monumental finish? The mysteries only deepen inside the pyramid. The narrow shafts, often called air shafts, point directly toward specific stars in the night sky, like Orion's belt, with an alignment that would have been critical thousands of years ago. The very dimensions of the structure encode mathematical constants like pi and the golden ratio, principles that we associate with advanced geometry. The logistics are as baffling as the mathematics. Over 2 million stone blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons, were quarried, transported across the river, and lifted to incredible heights with a smooth, seamless perfection. The mainstream explanation of ramps and sheer manpower begins to strain under the weight of such staggering precision. This was more than a tomb. It was a gateway to the cosmos, a physical embodiment of celestial knowledge. This ancient drive to map the heavens was not confined to Egypt, but appears again in a structure that turns the very landscape into an observatory. High in the Andes, the fortress of Sacsayhuamán guards the old Inca capital of Cusco with display of stonework so advanced it seems to defy physics. Its immense, zigzagging walls are assembled from colossal limestone boulders, some weighing as much as 200 tons. The true marvel is not their size but their fit. These are not simple rectangles stacked one upon the other. They are complex, polygonal puzzles, each block a unique shape with multiple angles and facets that lock perfectly into its neighbors. The joints are so seamless, so inconceivably tight, that for centuries, locals and visitors alike have said you cannot force a single piece of paper between the stones. This was accomplished entirely without mortar. The binding agent here was not a paste but an impossible precision. How could the Inca, with only stone and bronze tools, have achieved such a flawless, interlocking fit across these irregular, multi-ton blocks? The technique suggests a profound understanding of stone, as if the builders could see the final form within the raw rock and knew exactly how to shape it. The proof of their mastery is written in the landscape itself. This fortress has endured powerful earthquakes that have toppled modern buildings, including many Spanish colonial structures built on the same land. While the newer walls cracked and crumbled, the ancient polygonal masonry of Sacsayhuamán simply settled and then reset, its intricate joints absorbing the shock. This resilience points to a forgotten school of engineering, one that understood the land and built in harmony with its forces. We see this same principle of unshakable stability echoed in another corner of the ancient world, where a different culture also moved mountains of stone. Buried deep beneath the sands of Abydos, the Osireion feels like a ghost from another age. This massive, subterranean complex is constructed from colossal blocks of red granite, each one weighing between 50 and 100 tons. Its design is utterly unique in Egypt, lacking the refined columns and hieroglyphic adornments of later temples. Instead, it features a stark, powerful style built with Cyclopean stones that feel impossibly ancient. The central chamber was originally designed as an island, surrounded by a channel of water, creating a symbolic representation of the primordial mound of creation emerging from the waters of chaos. This layout, along with its precise stonework, bears a striking resemblance to the Valley Temple at Giza, yet it feels even more primordial. The sheer mass of the materials and the flawless joints between the blocks point to a level of engineering that seems to surpass the known capabilities of the dynastic Egyptians who claimed the site. Why would a civilization that had perfected elegant architectural forms revert to such a brutal, monumental style? Many researchers suggest the Osireion is not a later imitation, but a surviving relic from a far older, advanced culture, a foundational work upon which later Egyptian mastery was built. Its true purpose remains shrouded, a silent, sunken sanctuary honoring gods of a forgotten time. This theme of carving impossible structures from the very earth itself finds its ultimate expression far to the east, where an entire temple was not built but revealed. The Nabatean city of Petra rises from the Jordanian desert as if conjured from the stone itself. Its most breathtaking monument, Al-Kosneh, or the Treasury, was not constructed block by block, but revealed by carving directly into the sheer face of a sandstone cliff. This was an architectural process in reverse, a work of subtraction executed from the top down. Imagine the confidence required to begin such a project, to stand at the cliff top and start removing rock, with no room for error, trusting that the magnificent facade hidden within would emerge perfectly. The scale is staggering, with columns, statues, and chambers all meticulously sculpted from the living rock, with a precision that suggests the use of sophisticated tools and profound mathematical planning. Yet the true genius of Petra lies not just in its visible splendor, but in what remains hidden beneath the surface. In a region defined by arid heat and sudden, violent flash floods, the Nabateans engineered a miracle of survival. They tamed the desert with a complex network of dams, cisterns, and water conduits that channeled floodwaters into a reliable city-wide supply. This intricate hydraulic system turned a barren canyon into a thriving metropolis, a feat of civil engineering that would challenge modern planners. How did a culture from the 1st century before the Common Era achieve such an impossible synthesis of artistry and utility? They demonstrated a mastery over their environment that feels almost supernatural, shaping an entire city from a mountain with an authority we struggle to comprehend. This deep, almost alchemical understanding of stone finds a strange and fiery echo thousands of miles away in the ancient forts of Scotland. High on windswept hills across Scotland, the ramparts of ancient forts hold a secret written in fire and stone. These Iron Age structures are not merely ruins, their walls are fused into solid glass. This phenomenon, known as vitrification, is a process that demands a sustained, searing heat exceeding 1,100 degrees Celsius. A simple bonfire, even a large one, burns at barely half that temperature. So how did these primitive forts achieve a heat so intense it literally melted solid rock? The conventional explanation suggests the builders may have used vast quantities of timber and special additives to fuel a catastrophic fire, perhaps as a ritual or a defensive measure. Yet this theory struggles to explain the strange inconsistency of the effect. On a single wall, one stone might be completely vitrified into a glossy, glassy sheet, while the block right beside it remains utterly untouched. It is as if the heat was not a general inferno, but something far more focused and unpredictable. This has led to more speculative ideas, including the possibility of some form of directed energy or a technological event so devastating its nature is now completely lost to us. Were these forts the sites of a forgotten conflict, one that employed weapons of unimaginable power, or did their builders possess a high-temperature technology whose purpose we can no longer grasp? These glassy sentinels stand as stark, silent testimony to an ancient and fiery mystery, one that echoes the theme of unexplained thermal mastery found in the labyrinthine tunnels deep beneath another continent. Deep beneath the fairy tale landscape of Cappadocia, Turkey, lies a world turned inside out. The Derinkuyu underground city is not a simple cave or a single shelter. It is a vertical metropolis carved with stunning ambition into the soft volcanic rock. This labyrinth descends for 18 levels, a depth equivalent to a modern 20-story building, and was once capable of housing an entire population of up to 20,000 individuals. It was a complete city in every sense, featuring living quarters, stables for livestock, churches for worship, and even sophisticated wine presses. The sheer scale of its excavation is almost beyond comprehension, representing the removal of millions of tons of rock to create a stable, breathable, and deeply hidden sanctuary. The engineering challenges alone are staggering, requiring a perfect understanding of structural integrity to prevent collapse and an intricate ventilation system of over 50 shafts that supplied fresh air to even the deepest chambers. Each level could be sealed off from the others by the rotation of massive, circular stone doors, heavy wheels of rock that slid into place from the inside, creating an impregnable defense. While mainstream history attributes Derinkuyu to Byzantine inhabitants seeking refuge from invaders, its profound complexity hints at a far more ancient origin. Could this have been a pre-planned refuge, engineered by a people with foresight of a coming cataclysm, a project spanning generations to ensure survival from a threat beyond mere human conflict? This hidden civilization beneath our feet suggests a profound understanding of safety, one that required going deep into the earth to escape what was happening on the surface. A similar impulse to find sanctuary from the elements, though in a very different form, can be found far across the sea, where another mysterious structure lies submerged beneath the waves. Beneath the clear, blue waters off the coast of Yonaguni Island, a silent giant rests on the seafloor. This is the Yonaguni Monument, a colossal structure of sandstone that rises like a sunken pyramid from the ocean depths. Its terraces are too flat, its edges too sharp, forming stark 90-degree angles that seem to defy the random chaos of nature. There are straight, parallel channels that run for meters without deviation, and what can only be described as staircases ascending its massive faces. The formation is so geometrically perfect that it feels deliberately designed. Mainstream geology suggests this is all a spectacular accident, the result of natural sandstone fracturing and strong ocean currents. But can currents carve perfect stairways with uniform steps? Can random erosion create a platform so level it looks like a ceremonial plaza? The most compelling argument for a human hand lies in the details, like a section of the rock that bears an uncanny resemblance to a carved human face, and nearby, marks that some researchers interpret as primitive glyphs. If this monument is indeed the work of an ancient culture, its construction date becomes a staggering proposition. For it to have been built on dry land, it would have to originate from a time when sea levels were dramatically lower, pushing its potential origin back to the end of the last ice age, over 10,000 years ago. This single structure, lost to the rising oceans, suggests a lost chapter of Pacific civilization, a people with the knowledge and will to shape mountains. As this underwater sentinel points to a forgotten world submerged by water, another ancient site directs our gaze upward toward the stars themselves. Far to the south, another desert floor holds a different kind of celestial message. The Nazca lines of Peru are a gallery of gigantic scale, visible only from the sky. Etched into the dark, stony ground are hundreds of geometric shapes and immense figures of animals, including a spider, a hummingbird, and a monkey, some stretching over 200 meters long. The precision of these lines is absolute, running perfectly straight for miles across hills and valleys without deviation. This was not the work of artists working at ground level, unable to see the full scope of their creation. So how was it accomplished, and for whom was this art intended? The conventional theory suggests the Nazca people used simple tools and surveying techniques, a remarkable but plausible feat of organization. Yet this does not fully explain the purpose. Why invest such immense effort into creating images that only a being in flight could properly appreciate? This has fueled enduring speculation that the line served as a landing strip or a signal for aerial visitors, a theory that, while controversial, highlights the fundamental mystery. A more grounded, yet equally profound, interpretation suggests the geoglyphs formed a vast astronomical calendar, with many of the lines pointing to key celestial events on the horizon, such as the solstice sunrises. The spider figure, for instance, is said to be a precise diagram of the Orion constellation. Whether as a map for the gods, a message to the sky, or a monumental clock for tracking time, the Nazca lines represent a deep, enduring desire to connect the human world with the cosmic order. This ancient need to build in harmony with the heavens finds a strange and powerful echo on a remote Pacific island, where a culture moved mountains of stone to honor their ancestors. The sheer ambition of the Nazca lines is matched only by the profound mystery of their creation. Scattered across a high desert plateau in southern Peru, these geoglyphs are not small etchings but colossal land art on a scale that dwarfs human perspective. A hummingbird with wings outstretched spans the length of multiple football fields. A spider, perfectly proportioned, stretches its legs across the dusty plain. The creators made these images not by adding material, but by subtracting it, carefully removing a top layer of dark, sun-baked pebbles to expose the lighter, sandy soil beneath. This technique created a stunning visual contrast, but it raises an immediate and practical question. How did they achieve such perfect, flowing curves and dead straight lines over miles of uneven terrain without ever being able to see the full picture? They were, in effect, drawing a masterpiece while standing with their noses pressed against the canvas. The prevailing theory suggests an incredible feat of coordinated labor and simple mathematics, using grids, ropes, and stakes to plot out the design section by section. Yet the precision remains breathtaking, with lines that run arrows straight across hills and valleys without the slightest deviation. This logistical marvel forces us to reconsider the capabilities of the Nazca people, pointing to a sophisticated understanding of geometry and large-scale project management that feels almost modern. But the greater enigma is why. Why pour such immense effort into art that can only be truly appreciated from the heavens? Some researchers see a celestial purpose, arguing the lines form a giant astronomical calendar, their directions aligning with the rising and setting sun during solstices or pointing toward key star constellations. Others interpret them as sacred pathways, walked during rituals to petition the gods for water in an unforgiving landscape. The most speculative theory, that they were runways or signals for aerial visitors, however controversial, persists precisely because it addresses this fundamental paradox of perspective. It asks us to consider who the intended audience really was for this monumental desert gallery. This mystery of immense, purpose-built land art finds a strange and tangible counterpart far to the north, where a different culture left behind perfect stone spheres whose meaning is just as elusive. Scattered across the lush river deltas of Costa Rica, hundreds of perfectly round stone spheres lie as if dropped by some celestial hand. These are not roughly hewn boulders, but objects of stunning geometric perfection, some as small as a tennis ball and others towering over 2 meters tall, weighing several tons. They are carved from gabbro, an incredibly hard volcanic rock, and their surfaces are unnaturally smooth, their curves flawless. The immediate question is how any pre-Columbian culture, working only with stone tools, could have achieved such a perfect spherical shape. A modern engineer would need precise measuring devices and power tools to replicate such a feat. The local mythology offers no clear answers, only adding to the enigma by speaking of a powerful substance that could soften the rock, allowing the builders to shape the spheres with ease before the stone hardened once more. Their purpose is just as mysterious. Were they territorial markers for ancient chiefs, a physical display of power and status? Could their placements have formed a giant astronomical calendar, their positions mapping the stars or the solstices? Some researchers have noted that many spheres were found in alignments, suggesting a deliberate arrangement, though most were moved from their original sites by later settlers. This has fueled more speculative ideas of an ancient energy grid, with the spheres acting as focal points in the landscape. Whatever their true function, these silent orbs represent a profound and isolated burst of technological artistry, a mystery carved in stone that feels both primitive and impossibly advanced. This mastery over rock, transforming it into perfect, abstract forms, finds a breathtaking parallel on the other side of the world, where an entire pantheon was not built but born from the heart of a mountain. The Kailasa temple at Ellora is a monument of pure ambition, carved not from stone but from disbelief. It is the world's largest single monolithic excavation, a complex so vast that it was sculpted from the top of a mountain down to its base. Imagine the mindset required to begin such a project. Instead of quarrying blocks to build upward, the architects approached the entire cliff face as a sculptor would a block of marble, visualizing the finished temple within, and then removing everything that was not part of their vision. The numbers are staggering. Over 200,000 tons of solid basalt were painstakingly chiseled away, not to create a simple cave, but to reveal a freestanding, multi-story temple complete with a central shrine, intricate pillars, life-sized elephant sculptures, and bridges connecting soaring galleries. This was a work of subtractive architecture on a scale that defies logic, executed with a precision that would be formidable even with today's engineering software. How did they plan it? One misjudgment, one overzealous strike could have ruined the entire structure, collapsing the envisioned towers into a pile of rubble. The sheer confidence points to a lost school of engineering, a methodology for seeing the final form in the raw stone and knowing exactly how to liberate it. This devotion to monolithic creation, to shaping entire landscapes in the name of faith, finds a distant, haunting parallel on a remote island in the Pacific, where a culture performed a similar feat of logistics for a purpose we can only guess. Standing in isolation on the most remote inhabited island on Earth, the Moai of Rapa Nui are silent, brooding giants. Their heavy brows and elongated features gaze eternally inland, turning their backs on the vast Pacific Ocean that surrounds them. These are not small carvings. Each statue is a colossal undertaking, hewn from the hard volcanic tuff of the Rono Raraku quarry. The scale of ambition here is almost incomprehensible, with nearly 1,000 of these figures created, some left unfinished in the rock, while others were moved across miles of rugged terrain to coastal platforms. The logistical puzzle is profound. How did a society with no metal, no wheels, and no large animals transport multi-ton monoliths across 11 miles of difficult landscape? Recent experiments have shown that a team of people could theoretically walk a moai by rocking it from side to side with ropes, a method that aligns with local oral tradition. Yet the practical application for moving hundreds of these giants, each an average of 13 feet high and weighing 14 tons, with a population that was never large, pushes the limits of this theory. The sheer volume of coordinated labor over generations speaks to a deeply organized society with a powerful, unifying purpose. Their world was one of sophisticated engineering and profound spiritual belief, a culture that invested everything into honoring their ancestors through these stone sentinels. Yet this very devotion may have contributed to a period of great hardship as the island's resources were strained. The eventual halting of all statue construction speaks to a societal shift, a turning point where the old ways could no longer be sustained. These giants are more than mysterious art. They are a powerful lesson in the relationship between a people, their environment, and their beliefs. This mastery of moving and fitting immense stones is mirrored in a different way across the ocean, in a city where the walls themselves are a perfect interlocking puzzle. High in the sacred valley of Peru, the fortress of Ollantaytambo stands as a testament to an almost supernatural command of stone. Here, in the Temple of the Sun, the very walls defy logic. Enormous blocks of red porphyry, a brutally hard rock, are assembled not like bricks, but like pieces of an impossible three-dimensional puzzle. One famous stone is a masterpiece of this art, its perimeter shaped with 12 distinct, precise angles that lock seamlessly into its neighbors. The joints are so inconceivably tight that the entire wall appears to have been carved from a single, living rock. This is not simple stacking, it is a form of stone knitting, suggesting the builders possessed a method for shaping and fitting that we simply cannot replicate with our understanding of their supposed tools. How could a culture using stone hammers and bronze chisels achieve such microscopic perfection in such resilient material? The mystery only deepens when you trace the journey of these stones. They were quarried from a mountainside on the opposite side of the valley, requiring them to be transported down a steep slope across the turbulent Yorubamba River and then up to the fortress site. Each of these multi-ton blocks, some weighing as much as 50 tons, was moved over this immense distance and difficult terrain. The logistics of this operation are as baffling as the masonry itself, pointing to a level of engineering and coordinated labor that feels completely anachronistic. Most puzzling of all is that this advanced stone-cutting technology appears in the Inca record already perfected, without any clear, gradual evolution. It is as if this knowledge arrived fully formed, a complete system of construction dropped from the sky. This same theme of puzzle-like Cyclopean masonry appears thousands of miles away in the legendary walls of a different ancient power. The Lion Gate of Mycenae stands as a silent, formidable sentinel, Its massive lintel a single slab of stone weighing over 20 tons. This was the grand entrance to a legendary city, but the true marvel lies in the walls themselves. They are built from colossal, irregular blocks of limestone, so immense that later Greek civilizations could not fathom their human origin. They named this style Cyclopean, believing only the mythical one-eyed giants possessed the strength to lift such boulders. The stones are not uniform bricks, they are a chaotic, polygonal puzzle, each multi-ton piece uniquely shaped to lock perfectly with its neighbors, creating a wall of immense strength without a drop of mortar. How did Bronze Age people, with their rudimentary tools, achieve such a feat of logistics and engineering? The knowledge required to quarry, transport, and fit these gargantuan stones seems to appear in the archaeological record already fully formed, a peak of masonry skill that was then lost for centuries. These walls were not merely for show, they were a statement of power and permanence, a defensive system so robust it has endured millennia of conflict and earthquakes. The mystery is not just in how they were built, but why the specific, complex knowledge to build in this way vanished from history, leaving only myths of giants in its wake. This theme of stones imbued with a power beyond their physical form finds a fascinating echo in a land far to the north, where another ancient site is famous for the music of its monuments. The silent fortresses of Scotland find a strange, musical echo in a boulder field in Pennsylvania. Here, at a place called Ringing Rocks Park, the stones themselves sing. When struck with an ordinary hammer, these seemingly ordinary rocks produce a clear, resonant, bell-like tone. It is a natural phenomenon, a result of the internal stress and unique crystalline structure of the diabase stone from which they are formed. Yet the site is wrapped in layers of mystery that go far beyond simple geology. Many of the rocks are not scattered randomly, but appear clustered in patterns that some researchers feel suggest deliberate arrangement. The local Lenape people held the area as deeply sacred, their legends speaking of powerful spirits inhabiting the stones, a clear indication that the sonic properties of this place were recognized and revered for a very long time. This concept of lithophony, the science of ringing stones, is not unique to Pennsylvania. It appears at ancient sites across the globe, from the musical stones of Skiddaw in England to certain megalithic monuments where specific stones were chosen for their acoustic properties. This recurring theme forces a profound question. Did ancient cultures possess a sophisticated understanding of sound, intentionally selecting and even shaping specific rocks to harness their vibrational energy? Were these lithophones used for long-distance communication, their pure tones carrying for miles across quiet landscapes, or were they central to rituals, their resonant frequencies believed to bridge the physical and spiritual worlds? The ringing rocks challenge us to listen to the ancient world, to hear not just with our ears but with our imagination, considering a lost science where sound was a tool and stone was an instrument. This idea of a forgotten acoustic technology resonates powerfully with one of the most famous and enigmatic ruins on Earth. Deep beneath the modern island nation of Malta lies a sanctuary of silence and sound that defies its Neolithic origins. The hypogeum of Hal Saflieni is a labyrinthine world, a three-level underground temple complex carved entirely from solid limestone over 5,000 years ago. This was not a simple burial cave, but a meticulously engineered subterranean structure, complete with chambers, halls, and passages that mirror the architectural forms of the massive above-ground stone temples found across Malta. The sheer volume of stone removed to create this space, all with simple stone and antler tools, is a monumental feat in itself. Yet the true genius of the hypogeum is not seen but heard. Within a specific chamber now called the Oracle Room, sound behaves in a way that feels impossible for such an ancient site. A deep male voice speaking or chanting at a certain pitch causes the sound to resonate and amplify, vibrating through the very stone with an otherworldly power that fills the entire complex. This is not a simple echo, it is a precise acoustic phenomenon. Modern researchers have discovered that this chamber resonates at a fundamental frequency that matches the vibrational range of human brain waves, a sonic key that can potentially influence states of consciousness, creating feelings of deep focus or even a trance-like state. The architectural features of the room, its shape and the curvature of its walls, act as a perfect amplifier and modulator for these specific frequencies. This cannot be an accident. It reveals a people who are not just master stoneworkers, but also pioneers of neuroacoustics. They understood how to use their architecture as a tool, transforming solid rock into an instrument for ritual, healing, or spiritual journeying. This was a technology of consciousness, a deliberate harnessing of energy that was as real to them as electricity is to us. The pursuit of this kind of forgotten power, a tangible energy harnessed from the natural world, finds a stunningly direct expression in an artifact found a continent away. Tucked away in the basement of a museum, a simple clay jar from ancient Iraq holds a secret that rewrites the history of technology. Known as the Baghdad Battery, this unassuming artifact consists of a terracotta pot, a carefully fitted copper cylinder, and an iron rod suspended inside. Its true genius is revealed only when it is filled with a common acidic substance like vinegar or grape juice. In that moment, this 2,000-year-old object becomes a functioning electrochemical cell, capable of generating a small but measurable electric current. The implications are staggering. This device dates to the Parthian period, around 2 centuries before the Common Era. For what purpose would an ancient artisan require a steady, low-level electrical charge? One compelling theory suggests it was used for electroplating, to deposit a thin layer of gold or silver onto other metals for jewelry or ceremonial objects. Another, more speculative idea is that the mild shock it produced was used in religious rituals, perhaps to create a tingling sensation that was interpreted as a touch from the divine. The debate among scholars continues, but the object itself is undeniable. It is a physical blueprint for a principle that mainstream science says was not understood until Alessandro Volta invented his battery in the year 1800. This means a working knowledge of electricity was present, applied, and then completely lost for nearly 2 millennia. The Baghdad Battery stands as a quiet but profound testament to a cycle of innovation and amnesia, a pattern of advanced knowledge surfacing and then vanishing from the historical record. This theme of a sophisticated scientific understanding that was somehow misplaced finds its most complex expression in a heavily corroded lump of bronze recovered from an ancient shipwreck. The Antikythera mechanism emerges from the deep as a ghost of forgotten genius. Pulled from an ancient shipwreck near the Greek island of Antikythera, this corroded lump of bronze sat in a museum for decades before its true nature was understood. When researchers finally peered inside, they found not a simple statue or pot, but a complex clockwork device of staggering sophistication. It is, without exaggeration, the world's first known analog computer. Constructed in the 2nd century before the Common Era, its intricate system of over 30 interlocking bronze gears calculated the movements of the heavens. By turning a hand crank, an ancient user could predict the positions of the sun and moon, forecast upcoming eclipses with remarkable accuracy, and even track the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games. This was not a tool for simple timekeeping. It was a portable, mechanical model of the cosmos. the precision of its engineering is what truly stuns the modern mind. Its gears are cut with teeth so fine and so perfectly spaced that the level of miniaturization would not be seen again until the sophisticated clockworks of 18th century Switzerland. This device did not appear from a vacuum. It is a surviving fragment of a much larger tradition, a peak of Hellenistic engineering and astronomical knowledge that was almost entirely erased by the passage of time. We must ask what other marvels of mechanics were lost in the great fires of libraries and the fall of empires. The Antikythera mechanism is irrefutable proof that the ancient world reached a technological zenith that would vanish for over a millennium. This theme of achieving impossible precision with seemingly primitive materials finds a more enigmatic and far more controversial echo in a series of artifacts carved from pure crystal. The flawless gears of the Antikythera mechanism present a puzzle of precision, yet they are rivaled by an artifact of an entirely different nature. Life-sized human skulls carved from a single block of pure quartz crystal emerge from the shadows of history, their surfaces impossibly smooth and their features hauntingly perfect. The most famous of these, the Mitchell Hedges skull, is a masterpiece of lapidary art, carved with an anatomical accuracy and a polish so flawless that it seems to defy its alleged pre-Columbian origins. Quartz crystal is one of the hardest substances on Earth, only slightly softer than diamond. To carve it, to hollow out the jaw and undercut the eye sockets from a solid block without causing a single fracture, would require tools and techniques far beyond simple stone abrasives. The level of perfection suggests the use of advanced rotating wheels tipped with diamond dust, a technology not associated with ancient Mesoamerica. While scientific analysis has exposed many of these skulls as clever modern forgeries, a small number remain stubbornly enigmatic, their origins and methods of creation still hotly debated. This lingering uncertainty fuels a compelling line of thought. Could these objects be remnants of a forgotten science, one that understood how to manipulate crystal growth or even soften stone for carving, as some local traditions suggest? Whether ancient artifacts or elaborate hoaxes, the crystal skulls endure as powerful symbols of a lost technological art, a whisper of a lapidary science that could shape the Earth's hardest materials with impossible ease. This concept of a forgotten urban science, one that planned cities in harmony with powerful natural forces, finds its ultimate expression in a mysterious metropolis high in the Andes. Across the Mississippi River from modern St. Louis, a different city once cast a long shadow. Cahokia was North America's own lost metropolis, a bustling urban center that at its peak around the year 1000 of the Common Era may have been home to as many as 40,000 people. Picture a population rivaling that of London at the same point in history, a thriving hub of trade, ceremony, and community life situated in the heart of what is now Illinois. The sheer scale of this settlement is difficult to overstate, but its true marvel is how its people reshaped the very land beneath their feet. At the city's heart rises Monk's Mound, a colossal earthen pyramid that remains the largest prehistoric earthwork in the Americas. This was not a simple hill. It is a meticulously engineered structure covering 14 acres at its base and rising 100 feet into the air. A monument built basket by basket with an estimated 22 million cubic feet of soil. The logistics are staggering, representing generations of coordinated labor to move this immense volume of earth without the wheel or draft animals. Yet this was more than a display of power, it was a center of cosmic order. The entire city was laid out on a precise celestial grid, with its central plaza and major mounds aligning perfectly with the sun's position at the equinoxes. The Great Mound itself functions as a giant solar marker, its eastern terrace aligning with the rising sun on the spring equinox to illuminate the chief's house atop the platform. This reveals a society with a sophisticated, working knowledge of astronomy and urban planning, integrating their architecture directly with the rhythms of the cosmos. Then, just a few centuries after its zenith, this vibrant metropolis was almost completely abandoned. By the year 1350, the plazas fell silent and the great mound stood alone. The reason for this collapse remains one of North America's greatest archaeological puzzles. Was it due to shifts in climate that affected agriculture, or did the very success of the city lead to resource depletion and social strain? The silence of Cahokia speaks volumes about the fragile balance between a civilization and its environment, a theme of immense earth shaping that finds a different artistic expression in the rolling hills of Ohio. Curving gracefully across a high ridge in Ohio, the Great Serpent Mound stretches for nearly a quarter of a mile, an earthwork so immense its full form can only be grasped from the air. This is not a fort or a burial site, but a monumental sculpture of a serpent caught in the act of uncoiling, its body winding in 7 great curves before culminating in a tightly wound tail. The sheer scale of its creation is a marvel, built basket by basket from tons of earth and clay, yet the true genius of this structure is locked in its alignment with the sky. The serpent's head is precisely oriented to the setting sun on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. As if this were not enough, the 3 major coils of its body appear to point toward the sunrise on both the winter solstice and the equinoxes. This is not a rough approximation. It is a precise, large-scale celestial calendar written into the landscape itself. How did a people we know as the Fort Ancient Culture, over 1,000 years ago, achieve such exact astronomical knowledge without written records or complex instruments? They encoded the fundamental rhythms of the solar year into the very shape of their world. The purpose of this silent, slithering giant remains one of archaeology's most beautiful puzzles. Was it a site for communal gatherings tied to the seasons, a physical prayer for fertility and abundance, or perhaps a marker for something even more profound? Whatever its original intent, the Great Serpent Mound stands as a timeless testament to a deep, intuitive connection between earth and sky. This ancient drive to build in harmony with celestial forces finds a powerful and controversial echo on the other side of the world, where another culture may have encoded a message of survival from a global catastrophe. Newgrange rises from the Irish landscape as a silent, stone calendar built by a people who mastered the sky. Constructed over 5,000 years ago, this massive passage tomb is older than the Great Pyramids of Egypt and the stone circles of Stonehenge. Its great, rounded mound covers an entire acre, surrounded by a striking curb of white quartzite stones that would have gleamed brilliantly in the sunlight. But the true genius of Newgrange is not in its scale, but in a single, slender opening carefully placed above its main entrance, a feature known as the roof box. For most of the year, the inner chamber remains in absolute darkness, a silent, sacred space. Then, for a few days around the winter solstice, something miraculous occurs. As the sun crests the horizon on the shortest day of the year, a narrow beam of light pierces through this roof box. It travels down the long, stone-lined passageway, growing until it floods the central burial chamber with a golden light that lasts for approximately 17 minutes before retreating. This is not a happy accident of architecture. It is the result of breathtakingly precise engineering and a deep, generations-long study of the solar cycle. To align a structure so perfectly that it captures the first, faint light of the solstice sun required a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and geometry that we rarely attribute to Neolithic farmers. The spiral and diamond carvings that cover its stones may well be a language of celestial knowledge we have yet to fully decipher. This was more than a tomb. It was a machine of stone designed to capture a moment of cosmic rebirth, a promise that the darkness would retreat and life would return. This ancient obsession with perfect solar alignment, with building structures that literally capture light, is a theme that finds its ultimate expression in our final and most profound sight. The final stones on our journey stand in silent, regimented lines along the coast of Brittany. The Karnak alignments form a megalithic matrix of over 3,000 individual standing stones, arranged in parallel rows that march across the landscape for several kilometers. It is an overwhelming sight, a sprawling geometric pattern etched into the earth on a scale that feels almost industrial. Theories about its purpose are as numerous as the stones themselves. Some researchers see a gigantic astronomical observatory, its alignments marking the solstice sunrises and lunar extremes. Others propose it functioned as a sophisticated seismic detector, with the standing stones acting as a stable reference to sense subtle shifts in the ground. It could have been a vast religious sanctuary, a place of pilgrimage and ceremony for a culture whose beliefs are now a complete mystery. Regardless of its original function, the sheer logistics of its construction are a staggering achievement. Quarrying, transporting, and precisely erecting thousands of multi-ton stones required a level of social organization and engineering skill that we are only beginning to appreciate. The precise geometric patterns and potential celestial alignments speak to a complex, organized worldview, a society that did not merely live on the land, but who communicated with it through these massive stone sentinels. And with this, our journey through 25 ruins reaches its end. Yet the true mystery is not contained within any single site, but in the collective story they tell. When viewed in isolation, each ruin can be explained away as an anomaly, a lucky guess, or the product of endless brute force. But when we step back and see them as a connected tapestry, a different pattern emerges. From Göbekli Tepe to Puma Punku, from the Great Pyramid to the Karnak stones, we see a recurring signature of impossible precision, of astronomical knowledge, of engineering that appears fully formed without a clear period of development. This is not the story of steady, linear progress we have been taught. It is the story of peaks and valleys, of advanced knowledge achieved, applied on a grand scale, and then somehow lost. These ruins are not just random artifacts of forgotten cultures. They are the scattered chapters of a lost history, pointing toward a forgotten epoch of human potential. The greatest question is no longer how they built these things, but why we forgot that we ever could. These ruins speak a common language written in stone and stars. A profound pattern emerges from the dust of these 25 sites, a signature of knowledge that cannot be confined by our conventional timelines. Cultures separated by oceans and millennia were all building with the same impossible precision, orienting their greatest works to the same celestial bodies and encoding the same mathematical constants into their architecture. The Great Pyramid's alignment to true north is not an isolated feat. It is a brother to the solar alignments of Newgrange and the Nazca lines. The seamless, mortarless masonry of Sacsayhuamán is a direct echo of the polygonal puzzles at Ollantaytambo and Mycenae. This is not the story of isolated genius, but of a shared inheritance. The evidence points toward a foundational source, a global cultural memory of a time when humanity reached a technological and spiritual peak that was later erased by catastrophe. This was not a primitive struggle for survival, but a golden age where science and sacred knowledge were one and the same, where building was an act of cosmic harmony. The sheer consistency of this advanced understanding forces a confrontation with our deepest assumptions about history. What if our linear story of progress is an illusion, and these ruins are not the beginnings of civilization, but the scattered fragments of its end? This scattered legacy of stone and star compels us to rewrite our entire past. The official timeline of steady progress from primitive to advanced is a comforting story, but it is a story that crumbles before the evidence. These 25 ruins are not isolated anomalies. They form a global tapestry of impossible technological heights, a pattern of precision, astronomical alignment, and engineering genius that our conventional history cannot contain. These sites are far more than silent relics. They are messages from our ancestors, a chorus of voices from across the millennia urging us to question what we think we know. They remind us that human potential is not a straight line, but a cycle of profound achievement and devastating loss. Our true history is one of peaks and valleys, of golden ages erased by catastrophe, leaving only these monumental fragments behind. As we stand on the shoulders of these forgotten giants, we are called to carry their spirit of innovation and boundless curiosity into our own future. The greatest discovery is not in any single stone, but in the realization that our capabilities are far greater than we have been led to believe. What other chapters of our story are still waiting to be uncovered? If this journey into the world's greatest mysteries has sparked your curiosity, we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.